And we can expect any time after that there will be a gazette notice confirming his removal from office. And the president now under the constitution immediately, in any case within 14 days, can nominate a new person to come in as deputy president. And this person to be nominated by the president can be nominated tonight or tomorrow morning. We are aware that the National Assembly will have a special sitting tomorrow. The Constitution gives them 60 days to consider any new person nominated for deputy president. But they can even choose to vote tomorrow, the representatives of the people. So it's a very accelerated process. And what I would summarize by saying is that both the legal teams of the deputy president and those who are supporting the impeachment are in a race against time to establish a new status quo, so that when the court, the three-judge bench, eventually comes to determine these many legal and constitutional questions about the process, they will be saying, preserve the current status quo. If the status quo is that there's a new person in office, as happened with the impeachment of Governor Mike Sonko of Nairobi a few years back, and Kananu was already sworn in, that status quo is likely to prevail. That's why there's a race against time. It's almost an indecent haste to get everything done. And that can explain even the decisions you've been seeing on procedural matters today, including on the question of whether there will be an adjournment until Tuesday.
Interesting. Sam?
Right. Right.
Mr. Speaker, a very rich businessman by the name El Haji looks and desires a beautiful young lady by the name Ngone, and finally takes her in as a third wife. Unfortunately, on the same night that he marries her, he develops erectile dysfunction, Mr. Speaker, and is not able to consummate the marriage. Sometimes in life, Mr. Speaker, when you fall down,
Assembly informed the Speaker of the Senate of the approval of the special motion by the National Assembly, and further forwarded to the Speaker of the Senate documents in evidence of the proceedings of the National Assembly. Further, whereas pursuant to Article 145, as read with Article 150, 1B and 2 of the Constitution, and Standing Orders 78 and 79 of the Senate Standing Orders, the Senate heard the National Assembly on the grounds for the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency RIGATHI GACHAGUA, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. And further, whereas pursuant to Article 145, as read with Article 150, 1B and 2 of the Constitution, and Standing Orders 78 and 79 of the Senate Standing Orders, the Senate also had His Excellency RIGATHI GACHAGUA, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, on the grounds of his proposed removal from office by impeachment of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Now, therefore, pursuant to Article 145, as read with Article 150, 1B and 2 of the Constitution, and Standing Order 78 and 79 of the Senate Standing Orders, the Senate resolves to remove from office by impeachment His Excellency RIGATHI GACHAGUA, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, on the following grounds. 1. Gross violation of Articles 10, 2A, B and C, 27.4, 73.1A and 2B, 75.1C and 129.2 of the Constitution, and Article 147.1 as read together with Article 131.2C and D of the Constitution. 2. Gross violation of Article 147.1 and 152.1 of the Constitution by undermining the President and the Cabinet and the effective discharge of the national government's executive mandates. Number 3. Gross violation of Article 6.2, 10.2A, 174, 186.1, 189(1), and the fourth schedule to the Constitution by undermining devolution. Number 4, gross violation of Article 161 of the Constitution on the institutional and decisional independence of judges. Number 5, gross violation of Articles 3(1) and 148(5)(a) of the Constitution on the fidelity to the oath of office and allegiance. Number 6, serious reason to believe that His Excellency the Deputy President has committed crimes under Section 13(1)(a) and 62 of the National Cohesion and Integration Act. Number 7, serious reason to believe that His Excellency the Deputy President has committed gross economic crimes under Sections 45(1), 46, 47(a)(3), and 48(1) of the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, and Sections 2, 3, 4, and 7 of the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act. Number 8, serious reasons to believe that His Excellency the Deputy President has committed crimes by continuously misleading members of the public through false, malicious, divisive, and insightful remarks that are contrary to the provisions of Section 132 of the Penal Code and Section 29 of the Leadership and Integrity Act. Number 9, gross misconduct that is incompatible with the high calling and dignified status of the office of the Deputy President and a member of the Cabinet and the National Security Council. His Excellency, the Deputy President has publicly attacked and undermined the work of the National Security Intelligence Service and its officers. Number 10, gross misconduct by openly or publicly insubordinating the President, who is the head of state and government. And number 11, gross misconduct by persistently bullying state and public officers. As I've already indicated, honorable senators, voting shall be done electronically. So at this juncture, I will ask honorable senators to pull your cards out of the delegate unit. Sergeant at Arms, kindly go around and pick all the unattended delegate cards. Sergeant at Arms, if you're done collecting the unattended cards, we're good. Now, honorable senators, you may log in back. As indicated earlier, we will be casting our votes 11 times. So the vote you're going to cast at the moment is for charge allegation number 1, which is gross violation of Articles 10(2)(a), B, and C, 27(4). I had already read it out. So from this moment, it's beamed on the screens. So honorable senators, once you've logged in, you may now proceed to vote. Senator Tabitha Keroche, may you move to dispatch and get some assistance. We're now going to allegation number 2. It's been beamed on the screen. You may now vote. We shall now move to ground number 3, allegation number 3. Can you beam it? There we are. Honorable Senators, you may now proceed to vote on allegation number 3. We are now going to allegation number 4. Let it be beamed on the screen. Honorable Senators, you may now proceed to vote on ground number 4. Honorable Senators, we are now moving to vote on charge number 5. You may now proceed to vote on charge number 5.
Could that be withdrawn?
It moves very fast, and those come with the office.
Yeah.
And if I was just to read the article that the gentleman mentioned, the Kai, it says if at least 2/3 of the members of the Senate vote to uphold any impeachment charge, the president or the deputy president ceases to hold office. It's just that fast.
Okay, Charles.
So the office,
Yeah.
if you cease to hold office, the privileges of the office.
Yeah.
Now there was some discussion about can I hold, some background. The key is if you held office for 2.5 years,
Yes.
even if you are impeached, you still retain. It's assumed that you have been a former deputy president. If it is for less than 2.5 years, that does not sustain. On the other hand, if you serve, now whoever comes in,
Yeah.
if they serve for more than 2.5 years,
They
that's
will
considered one term.
So they will get perks at the end of...
They'll first of all get perks at one, and two, they can only run for a second term. In other words, the 2.5 plus is considered a full term.
All right,
Yes.
just pause for a moment, because this is the 6th ground, and once again, the senators have voted to find him guilty on
Yes.
count
ground number six.
number 6.
Serious
Sam?
reason to believe that His Excellency the Deputy President has committed crimes under various sections of the National Cohesion and Integration Act. Some of the illustration of that was also the question of shares.
Yeah. That would seem to
48.
be... Yes.
48 out of 67. That is 71.6. Of course, they needed 45.
Yeah.
So how many grounds do you have so far?
Out of the 6, we have 4.
4
so
far.
Voting against.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's see. Yes. So you know, we apologize for that. No, I think it was a signal that was coming out of Parliament. The screen that is showing the vote tally. And so you know, Abdikadir was saying you know about the perks and whoever would take over from office now until you know the next election would be deemed to have served a full term.
If they stay for 2.5 years.
If they, yeah, that's an important rider, Jamila.
That sounds like a full term.
That's a very important rider. So you know, Charles, even as we see how the vote goes for Ground 7, so in practical terms, you know, we've talked about you know the perks and everything. What happens to Rigathi Gachagua?
The situation is not completely clear because there have been different outcomes for different governors who have faced something similar. Right now we have a governor who's still in office despite having been removed by the Senate earlier than Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua through orders, conservatory orders. This is ground number 7. This one has failed. This is the one on corruption, money laundering and issues of the assets he's been acquiring, that the Deputy President has been acquiring. So this particular ground has failed.
The senators,
so far we have 4 counts that have succeeded and 3 counts have failed. And as we are speaking about what happens next, there are those who are able to preserve status quo. However, the Deputy President has previously tried in the court. In fact, there were so many petitions that were filed, several of them were consolidated.
26.
Yes, exactly. And by the time the 3-judge bench was dealing with the question of conservatory orders, there was already a decision of a single judge on the same matter. And there is a legal term that we call res judicata, something that has already been decided. You cannot now go back to court and try to get a different position unless you go on appeal to the higher court. So the Deputy President's team will try to have a new application to preserve status quo. They'll say the situation has changed, but they'll be facing that challenge of convening a bench, the same 3-judge bench, quickly enough to deal with the matter. So one possibility is that he goes the way of Governor Kawira Mwangaza, or even as happened formerly with the governor of Embu in his first term, Martin Wambora, and manages to pose the outcome of the Senate process of impeachment. The second option is that he fails to do so, and he remains out of office, like what happened to Governor Mike Sonko. And if you are out of office, then it means that your political career suffers a big hit. We'll discuss that. We are now in ground number 8. This one also seems to have failed. This one is about false, malicious, divisive and insightful remarks contrary to the Penal Code and Leadership and Integrity Act. This,
but how do they split this from the first judge?
I don't think
Let me explain.
Yes.
The first about 4 counts were relating to violation of the Constitution, because the Constitution has 3 basic grounds upon which you can impeach a Deputy President. The next set of grounds, the ones we are looking at now, these counts have to do with suspicion that is committed a crime under local or international law. So this one, the threshold is a bit higher, I think, than the one for violation of the Constitution, even though the courts have said the standard of proof is what in legal terms we say above the civil standard, is more than balance of probabilities, but below the criminal standard, which is beyond reasonable doubt. So you need to prove the evidence to a certain standard that is in the middle between civil cases and criminal cases. So it's possible to find someone has not met the test for one of the grounds and has met for another, even though the grounds seem or the counts seem connected, which is what has happened here, that you engage in action that was contrary to the National Cohesion and Integration Act, But yet, on the question of divisive remarks under the penal code, you've not reached that higher standard.
Okay. Let me ask.
Maybe just to add, it also shows the coloring of the entity doing the judgment. Parliament understands the first charge. It's very clear. It's a very political charge. Parliament is not very comfortable with anti-money laundering or theft for obvious reasons.
It cuts too close.
It cuts too close. So you need to understand that this is the court.
So glass houses, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
I wanted to,
just before you carry on, I've noticed something and I'm wondering if it's procedural. Ground number 7, at some point, 14 had voted yes, and 52 had voted no. Then it changed from 14 to 13, and from 52 to 53. So someone appears to have changed their vote.
Can you change
from
the
yes
vote?
To no?
How does it work?
I believe you can. These are parliamentary processes. Within that time of voting, I don't know.
So before the window closes, you can?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, there's a time frame.
Yeah.
If you put the card in the wrong slot, you can put it in the correct slot.
Okay. All right. There was something I wanted to ask because, you know, when they were last in court, they had sought leave to perhaps amend their petition for something tomorrow, Charles? Or
I was going to say something about the court process.
Yes, yes. Please do, because you've said some interesting things on X.
Yes. So first of all, the procedure under the statute, which is where the governors were being processed, and the procedure under the Constitution, one is senior to the other. Even though it's actual carbon copy, the leeway the courts have is different. This is the Constitution, number one. Number two, the decision in the Wambora case at the Supreme Court has been very good in terms of setting the law. In my opinion, the courts have very little leeway to interfere with or interface with this process. So, for example, we have just had criminal cases, criminal charges. Yeah. What you would expect if somebody was found guilty of a criminal offense, that there would be criminal sanctions. That is not the case. Nobody's going to jail. Yeah. Nobody's going to be fined. They will lose their job. So this process is a specialized, very watertight process, very seriously timelined. And I think the courts involving themselves so deeply in this process was a misdirection. It was actually not constitutional, in my opinion. Because look at it. Wambora started in 2014. And he was impeached by the county assembly and got a stay. By the time it went through the processes to the Court of Appeal in 2017, 4 years later, the Supreme Court said he was rightly impeached and should not have been in office. That surely was not the intention of the Constitution, especially when you will be dealing with a president, not the deputy president. What would be the situation when you have a president impeached by both houses of parliament in office by virtue of the decision of one judge in the High Court, anywhere in the country, for the next 3 years, for example, while the Senate and the National Assembly have it will be political gridlock and a very, very dangerous situation. That's why impeachment is a very short process. It's really a short, I like the term used by my friend Harvey. It's a constitutional coup, so to speak. Yeah. And you don't take very many years of legalese to go through those things. You need to move. Just like when there's an election petition at the president's level, it is very short. It's within 30 days, and the president asked, don't take office until we are done with your case. It's for good reasons.
I think I want to push back a bit, Counsel, on that argument, because for Kenya, I think this constitution has been a bit like moving straight from walking on foot to driving a Ferrari.
Okay. Yes.
And when you look at the impeachment clause, it's so sophisticated. I don't think it's written for our environment. It presumes that we actually impeach because of impeachable reasons. Okay. when you see impeachment and how we use impeachment in this country, and you just want to look at how it's done in the counties, it's used more as a political tool. It's one of the tools that are available for you to fight your opponents. It could be something as simple like, oh, we don't like you.
No.
Because
sorry, Lena, just hold that thought. Ground number 9, they voted to impeach him. 46 votes versus 20. That's ground number 9.
This is the speech, 26th of June, 2024.
When he spoke in Mombasa.
From Mombasa about the National Intelligence Service.
Right.
The senators agreed that that is an impeachable ground. 46 voting in support, 20 disagreeing, 1 abstaining.
Okay, sorry.
And just to clarify, we are now in the counts that are dealing with gross misconduct. We have the first 5 counts had to do with breach of the Constitution, then the next 3 grounds or counts had to do with violation, belief that you have committed a crime under local or international law. That is ground number 6 to 8. Then ground number 9 to 11 are related to gross misconduct. So this was the first of the gross misconduct counts that has been voted in support of the impeachment resolution.
Yeah, that's an important one on gross misconduct. Linus, go back to your point you were...
Yes, I was just illustrating on what we would consider misuse of impeachment. And I just want us to look at the illustration that is with us now, which is the impeachment of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Count 1, which was about his pronouncements, shareholding. If the political community actually felt he was wrong, how come nobody ever contradicted him
in public?
In public, especially in the first year of office. We will not forget that Rigathi Gachagua was the warrior of the Kenya Kwanza campaigns. The man who displayed a very low capacity for embarrassment. And he went for his opponents, in a very shameless way. Whether it's former President Uhuru Kenyatta or Raila Odinga, there was no holding back when it came to what Rigathi Gachagua could say. But nobody told him, hey, shareholding is bad language. It's impeachable. But further down the line, relations between him and the boss soured. And there was this, I believe, looking around for whatever charges that can be found to impeach him, including talk of money laundering. And I'm beginning to think, did someone regret why the 200 million case was dropped? Because it would have come in handy.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, count 10.
There's some development.
We just had ground 10.
Yeah.
You didn't get to 45.
Right, and this is the one about insubordination of the president. Yes, 22, no, 44. Majority of senators don't believe it's a ground. And that tallies with what they found under the undermining of the president and the cabinet earlier on in ground 2, where 28 were voting yes. Yeah. And what is the other number? 39 are voting no.
Yeah. Okay.
So Linus, I think on the issue you had mentioned, look, if many state officers were put to this test, they would fail. Many in parliament or in the cabinet or elsewhere, many people would fail this test. Number one. Number two, clearly there are political knives at work in the process. So that, I think, and thirdly, the public in Kenya has a very low trust threshold for our politicians. So all that is absolutely correct. Having said that, it is the public that has voted for members of our parliament. They actually are currently members of parliament. Yeah. So the functions they undertake as members of parliament are constitutional and legitimate functions. And finally, this actually is a political device. So for example, Charles is a very good lawyer. If he was tomorrow, without any process in parliament here, on a normal sunny day, file a case in the High Court to say, I'm going to file a case for impeachment. The High Court. The High Court, most lawyers will tell you, has unlimited jurisdiction. So if Charles was to wake up one morning and decide without any process going on in Parliament and go and say, I'm going to file an impeachment case, he will be laughed out of court. He'll be told, impeachment, we don't deal with impeachment. Go to the Parliament. That's where impeachment happens. On the other hand, if I was to go to Parliament and say I'm going to file an election petition in Parliament, they'll tell me you're crazy. Go to court, my friend. So actually, the forum, the home of impeachment is Parliament.
Okay, sorry.
But the court, I think, should weigh in on whether procedure was followed.
Good point. Excellent, excellent point. So that has some legs.
Sorry, one moment.
Okay.
It's fascinating. Yes. This is the final ground.
Yes. Right.
Ground number 11. This was on
assistant bullying
of state and public officers. This is the one relating to which evidence that was presented? Was this the one on intimidation?
I should believe so.
The former head of KEMSA?
Yes, that's the one.
Yes, this one
it's
has
about
also...
KEMSA.
Yes, it was about KEMSA, Dr.
And the mosquito nets
yes.
tender.
Global
and the
tender.
infamous phone call to him to refund the bid bond of Shobika.
And you remember
and that, of course, has not been upheld by the senators.
Yes.
Okay.
And earlier, during the National Assembly sitting, you remember several members of Parliament were saying how he's been treating them, disregarding them, calling them some names, some very funny names that were mentioned by Kururia, Njoroge Kururia, I think, the Member of Parliament for Gatundu North. So the Senate does not believe that it has been substantiated to an extent of impeaching the Deputy President, rather. But so far, 5 out of 11 grounds have been substantiated by the Senate and being used to remove the Deputy President.
And he stands impeached, and I believe, let's listen to the Speaker.
Senator Alan Chesang, proceed to the dispatch. Senator Karungo, proceed to the dispatch. Bayo.
Yeah, it would seem the voting is, or is this where they actually do the verification?
It could be verifying the votes.
Yeah, of the entire process. You can also see that the senator from Nakuru, and is that nominated Senator Karen Nyamo as well?
Yeah, Senator of Nyandarua,
yes.
John Methu.
That's right, yes, absolutely. So, yeah, and Senator Thangwa too. So what happens now, Charles? The Speaker makes the announcement, the final pronouncement. Like we've said, this is a quasi-judicial process, so allow my questions. I know they're simple.
Yes.
Is there a verdict, you know, a ruling, a judgment, you know? And do we now have, you know, a reasoned judgment like we see? Because we've seen a bit of a mix of what was a court process versus...
Yeah, when you have jury trials, for example, in the United States of America or the United Kingdom, they don't give a judgment. They just give a verdict. Yeah. And if there's anything that is reasoned, it is the views of the judge or his directions to the jury before they give the final outcome. So you could say that the reasoning in this case that appears in the Hansard is the comments that were made by the senators before they voted. They're actually more like a jury because what jurors do is what the senators have done. It's only that their deliberations, and like for a jury which are private,
closed door,
are public, and they've actually given their comments so that Kenyans can hear their reasoning for the decisions they've arrived at. So the only thing we'll have at the end of this process is a communication from the Speaker about the removal and the necessary Gazette notice formally communicating that position to the whole country. and then, of course, also communicating to the president, because there has to be formal communication to the president so that he can appoint or nominate a new deputy.
And that formal communication to the president is done in writing?
I would assume there would be a letter.
I suppose the outcome of the vote?
Yes.
Yeah, just trying to understand. Okay.
Yes, indeed. There would be, for sure, a letter to the president, and that letter would include the evidence of the outcome of the Senate resolution. Just to clarify...
Any chance all that will be happening at the same time?
The clerks, officials in the Senate are already drafting. If they had not finished drafting before, they only needed to add the ground that has succeeded. 5 of 11 grounds. Yeah. We noticed earlier today that the speaker walked out for 5 minutes and he came back maybe a bit longer, 10, 15 minutes, but he had a reasoned proposal.
And so did the majority leader.
He read it well.
Yes.
He read it very well.
So they are prepared in advance.
Right.
And for sure, between now, 11:20 and midnight, those documents are likely to have been prepared, signed, and dispatched. There is an efficiency that is amazing for the public sector on this matter.
When the government wants to be efficient, it truly can. Abdikadir?
So Parliament, first of all, has a very good public service. Most people don't understand that the actual work in Parliament gets done by the public service. Right. You realize it was not just the ruling of the Speaker, but the majority leader's application was also ready.
Yes.
The procedural motion, that was also ready, which means by the time the 5 o'clock process was going, they had very serious meetings to decide what happens if this happens and the other on that item. But to follow up on the earlier question, because I think it's a very important for our constitution. This is a very momentous day for our constitutional development. And it's good that with all the mistakes that we're starting with a DP instead of an actual sitting president, because the risks and the stakes are far much higher. So coming back to the discussion on, don't we need an adult in the room in the name of a court to try and look at the process to see? And that makes sense. The only thing is that our constitution takes a dim view of process defeating substance for purpose of a political constitutional history. If you remember, and Kenneth Matiba sued President Moi on an election petition. And it was defeated because he did not serve President Moi physically, personally.
Yes.
And he went to the Court of Appeal and he was told, no, you have to actually serve him. That was process defeating substance. You also remember, the lawyers will remember, for a long time, anybody who had a human rights violation against them could not go to open any case in the High Court. Why? Because Chief Justice, who was supposed to have done rules for the Bill of Rights, did not do the rules. So because the processes had not been done, you could not enforce your Bill of Rights. And so on, and you would be told you don't have standing. So, an NGO would go to court because somebody who has been disappeared, and they'll be told, are you the person? No, you have no standing. You have no locus, as the lawyers say. Because of all those processes, the Constitution says that you will not be denied rights, or substantive things will not be denied because of process. Now we have a situation where impeachment, the substance has been done. And to look at the process, we take 4 years and actually tell the person who was impeached, you go back to office. It's really a very dicey situation. So, sorry.
You speak about process, Wakili Gituku, a minute. You talk about process. One of the processes that was done, of course, I think preempting anyone going to court and saying the process was not followed because there was no public participation. So it was done.
Yes.
But then now, does the opinion of the court, public opinion, matter? What people say, does it really matter? Because if we listened to what people were saying during the whole process, something else came out that was neither we want to impeach him or want to keep him. There was something in the middle that said we want both of them to go.
That's true.
Do those things really matter? We talk about members of parliament and senators being a representative of the people, because when they speak there, they speak on behalf of the people who voted for them.
Yes.
But was the voice of the people ignored in this process?
I can come in on that point. I think what the courts have said about public participation, they have had so many cases on public participation that they've become quite clear. They've said it should not be a cosmetic exercise. They've talked about both quantity and quality. they've showed about demonstrating that you've not just allowed the people to speak, but taken into account their considerations. But they've also said that public participation is not veto power by the people. Those who vote are the representatives. So they should listen to the people. They should be able to give some kind of justification of why they've decided one way or the other. But assuming majority of the people said we want it to go one way, they don't have to agree, so long as they have a good reason for disagreeing.
All right, and just so you know, we will interrupt that now. Let's listen to what the speaker is saying.
Now, the result of the division is as follows. Charge number 1, ayes 54, nays 13, abstention 0. So the ayes have it. Charge number 2, ayes 28, nays 39, abstention 0. So the nays have it. Charge number 3, ayes 19, nays 45, abstention 3. So the nays have it. Charge number 4, the ayes at 51, nays at 16, abstention at 0. The ayes have it. Charge number 5, ayes 49, nays 16, abstention 2. So the ayes have it. Charge number 6, ayes at 48, nays at 18, abstention 1. So the ayes have it. Charge number 7, the ayes 13, nays 53, abstention 1. So the nays have it. Charge number 8, ayes 27, nays 40, abstention 0. So the nays have it. Charge number 9, ayes 46, nays 20, abstention 1. So the ayes have it. Charge number 10, ayes 22, nays 45, abstention 0. The nays have it. Charge number 11, the ayes 18, nays at 47, abstention 2. So the nays have it. Now, honorable senators, the result of the division indicate that the Senate has upheld the following impeachment grounds. 1, gross violation of Articles 10(2)(a), B, and C, 27(4), 73(1)(a), and 2B, 75(1)(c), and 129(2) of the Constitution, and Article 147(1) as read together with Article 131(2)(c) and D of the Constitution. 4, gross violation, ground number 4, gross violation of Article 161 of the Constitution on the institutional and decisional independence of judges. Ground number 5, gross violation of Articles 3(1) and 148(5)(a) of the Constitution and the fidelity to the oath of office and allegiance. Ground number 6, serious reasons to believe that His Excellency the Deputy President has committed crimes under Sections 13(1)(a) and 62 of the National Cohesion and Integration Act. Ground number 9, gross misconduct that is incompatible with the high calling and dignified status of the office of the Deputy President and a member of the Cabinet and the National Security Council. His Excellency the Deputy President has publicly attacked and undermined work of the National Security Intelligence Service and its officers. Now, honorable senators, pursuant to Article 145(7) and 151(b) and 2 of the Constitution and Standing Order 78(8) of the Senate, the Senate has resolved to remove from office by impeachment His Excellency RIGATHI GACHAGUA AGH, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Accordingly, His Excellency RIGATHI GACHAGUA AGH ceases to hold office. I thank you. You may rise, honorable senators. Now, honorable senators, there being no business on the order paper, the Senate stands adjourned until Tuesday, the 22nd of October, 2024 at 2:30 p.m.
And there you have it, the declaration from the Speaker of the Senate, Amason Jeffer Kingi, on the business before the House today. He is now a former deputy president, that is RIGATHI GACHAGUA, found guilty of 5 out of 11 counts that were before him. I want us to continue with our conversation. There is a comment here from Advocate Steve Ogola, who says, the finality of impeachment means that it may be disturbed only in exceptional circumstances and upon full hearing of such constitutional petitions. The implication is that the High Court must exercise the greatest restraint and decline any invitation to grant temporary orders of stay, stopping the president from nominating a new deputy president. In short, former DP GACHAGUA has 0 chances of getting favorable orders to stop nomination of his replacement. Charles, sounds like what you were saying about, this sort of race to the finish on either side because of the issue of, status quo. So,
yeah,
so explain to us the courts. They don't usually want to upset status quo?
I think there have been 2 standards that have been demonstrated by the courts. To be honest, it's not one standard.
Yeah.
And because people have a view about whether Deputy President RIGATHI GACHAGUA was constitutionally and properly impeached or not, it's possible to take one of the 2 arguments. But the truth is that the jurisprudence of the courts right now is that you have cases like Mike Sonko, who once he was successfully impeached could not get a court order. And you also have cases like Kawira Mwangaza, who currently is enjoying a court order after she was successfully impeached, and Martin Wambora before. But Martin Wambora, you could say, was the first term of county government. This is the current term, Kawira Mwangaza. Yeah. So the truth is that the courts have 2 standards that have been applied, or one standard applied in 2 different ways. And it is not, I